Democrats have been getting excited for weeks about this idea of kicking Trump off the 2024 ballot. They've been salivating over this like a new puppy who's just found that one shoe in the back of your closet that you really, really didn't want him to find. Yeah, that happened to me, and I still miss that shoe almost 20 years later. But the thing is, Democrats are thinking about this all wrong. And sure, if I had a Staples Easy button, I'd reset this election so we were voting for people who looked less like they were running for senior crypt keeper. Let's get into what the Supreme Court case is about, why Trump is going to win, and really why that should make Democrats happy. And if you are only here because you want to hear about the facts of the case in a way that you can easily understand so you don't have to sit there clueless while Chad is monologuing about, constitutional law in the break room, then use the chapter markers below. The case was brought by Norma Anderson. She's 91 years old and from Colorado. She claims Trump is disqualified for running for president based on his actions surrounding January 6th. This would be based on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Section 3 says no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. Or basically, Section 3 just says that you can't hold public office if you engaged in insurrection, which kind of makes sense, right? Section 3 was added to the Constitution in 1868 after the Civil War. Its purpose was to ensure Confederate leaders couldn't hold public office. Over the years, it's only been used about 8 times to disqualify an official from holding public office, but it was recently used in New Mexico to bar a county commissioner from running. Its limited use makes Section 3 less like constitutional law and more like that macaroni necklace your daughter made you for Mother's Day. And that's left a lot of room for debate over what exactly it means. In short, plaintiffs argue Trump is disqualified from running for office because his actions leading up to and on January 6th incited an insurrection. Interestingly, Trump's attorneys haven't spent a lot of energy on denying his involvement in January 6th or arguing that it wasn't an insurrection. Instead, their arguments are a little more technical. First, Trump's attorneys argue Section 3 does not apply to the president. The language of the article specifically refers to officers, but they say that the president doesn't fall under the category of officers of the United States. This one always makes me laugh a little bit because it's like saying everyone has to follow the rules except the person with keys to the nukes. Second, his attorneys argue Section 3 does not apply to the president because the president's oath does not use the language to support the Constitution. Trump's third argument, and maybe the most compelling argument to me, is that allowing the Colorado Supreme Court to remove him from the ballot denies him due process. The idea here is Trump should be entitled to a full and fair hearing to determine whether he incited an insurrection. And you can see this idea does have some legs to it. We could really open the door to a lot of potential lawsuits if we let conservative or liberal courts in any state come up with any reason they feel like to kick people off the ballot. Of course, this argument would go a lot farther if Trump's attorneys were making it a central part of their defense. Instead, they tend to skirt around the issue of whether he actually incited an insurrection. I'm not saying they haven't addressed it at all, but they have not addressed it deeply. From here, everything indicates Trump is very likely to win his case, and the Supreme Court is expected to issue a ruling within the coming weeks, or at least before June when they recess for the summer. So let's break it down. To start, Trump's attorney James Mitchell, yes, James Mitchell from Texas, who orchestrated the abortion law that let private citizens bring suit against anyone participating in abortion. Yeah, that James Mitchell, he did a fantastic job before the Supreme Court. He avoided most of the outlandish rhetoric that has gotten so many of Trump's previous attorneys in trouble. Second, the Colorado Supreme Court justices were all appointed by Democratic governors, and the court still split 4-3 on this issue. The Supreme Court, the US Supreme Court, it has a 6-3 conservative majority. Some of the justices Trump put on the court himself. Now, it is important to note that this issue doesn't clearly cut across party lines. There are some conservatives who believe in a strict reading of the Constitution and believe Trump should be removed from the ballot on that issue. And there are some Democrats who believe that Trump should be left on the ballot because it best serves democracy. That said, it's much easier to secure a win when the court is stacked in your favor. And last, Trump's team has let it be known that he's expecting full political support from justices like Kavanaugh because he went through hell to get Kavanaugh on the court. And in addition, it's hard to imagine justices like Clarence Thomas being able to issue a unbiased ruling given his wife's connection to January 6th. Yeah, you should really Google that if you don't know about it. And come on, of course, this is what Trump is relying on. He has always used bullying, manipulation, and aggression to get what he wants. And that has been quite successful for him in the past. And if you're being honest, can you really picture him sitting in his bathrobe, eating a cheeseburger, scrolling Twitter, and thinking, you know what, I should really take a minute, pause, and think about the other side before I send this tweet? Can you picture that? So at this point, you're probably thinking, this is interesting, but what does it mean? So here are some of my thoughts. The ruling is likely to make many Democrats angry. And I get it. They want to hold Trump accountable for his actions. But the fact is, Democrats have been hitting Trump with lawsuit after lawsuit, and he's still standing. In fact, recent polls show that the more lawsuits Trump has against him, the more the American people feel that he's being treated unfairly and support him. And do you know what Democrats aren't doing while they're litigating Trump? They aren't spending time talking to people and standing in front of cameras and explaining why their policies are better. Think about it this way. If your friend Jim went to the coffee shop every day and he told everybody how awful Pepsi is, and then Pepsi Company hit him with 91 lawsuits to silence him, you may start to think that he's not so crazy, right? What does Pepsi have to hide? Why are they hiding behind so many lawsuits? And I'm not saying Democrats have something to hide, but what I am saying is that hiding behind lawsuits instead of addressing the issues isn't doing them any favors. And if Democrats are successful in kicking Trump off the ballot, then they haven't addressed their core problem. There will be another MAGA Republican to take his place because they haven't proved that the American people want something else. The way Democrats really win is to keep Trump on the ballot, address him on the issues, and soundly defeat him in November. That's the only way that they prove to Trump and all of the other MAGA Republicans that this is what America wants. And if they can't do that, then we need to understand we live in a democracy where the majority of people decide what's best for the country. Okay, that's all I have for this week. Please give me a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. If not, let me know in the comments. I want to hear that too.